In this video, we're going to talk about how to log command execution. The way you log command execution varies, and so we're only going to talk about one or two of the ways that you can do it. But it's a really useful tool for debugging and for finding out what's going on without actually having to run a source code level software development environment debugger. So this would be something that an end user would be able to do to get more insight into what's actually happening, particularly what's happening in the cognition models. So the first thing I want to tell you about is something that we call the execution output recorder. And this scenario has a data recorder data set already included in it. And the execution output recorder has been created and it's running. And you can see here there's this window that's called the execution output recorder window. And it's in our tutorial scenario, but I haven't talked about it very much yet. So let me spend a little time talking about it. Underneath settings, one of the types of settings that you have in Flames is called data recording. And there's another set of videos or another video that talks in more depth about data recording, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. There are a lot of different kinds of data recorders that are available in Flames, and the one that I'm going to mention right here is the execution output recorder. So data recorder objects are entity objects, so you can edit them just like any other entity object, and they're stored in data sets just like everything else in Flames. You can't write custom data recorders, but these data recorders themselves are customizable. In particular, the event data recorder is a wrapper around custom data recording that you can do. So you don't have to write, you write very little code and you can customize the event recorder. So the one I'm going to talk about here, though, is the output, the execution output recorder. And this basically is a log of text messages that get generated by Flames and by the models that are executing. Now, whether a particular model writes out log information to this execution output recorder is up to the developer of the model. Some information is written automatically by Flames when certain switches are turned on, and we're going to talk about that here. But the most useful information oftentimes comes from software developers who choose to write information to the event log, to the output recorder, to the execution output recorder inside the model. And there are switches that can be turned on that will enable that output or turn that output off. And so we're going to talk about just a little bit about that here. And when we get to software development and talk about particularly cognition models, but really any type of model, there's a video that talks about how to write to the execution output recorder. So we'll save that for software development. But if you want to get whatever data is written by your models written out and visible to you in your window, you create an instance of this output recorder. And when you create that, so again, it's just like any other entity. So I could, this data set is actually owned by the Flames examples. So I'm not going to make a modification to it, but I'll just show you. You can direct your output to a file, or you can direct or to a window. And so we have it set to a window. And if it was directed to a file, you could cause the file to close automatically in case it was getting really big. And you can also have it defined, but say for this particular run, I just want to disable it. So we don't have it, we have it enabled. And when I say I want the output sent to a window, it will automatically open this window. So even if this window isn't open and I start running, it will open the window. And then anything that's written by Flames or by models to the execution output, we call this the Flames message handler. When we write text messages to the Flames message handler, it'll show up here in this log. So this is not the same thing as the status window. The status window is writing information, is capturing information that's written by Flames also, but the status window is the place where messages go before you start executing. By default, if you don't have the execution output recorder open, and messages get generated during execution, you won't see them at all because they don't get written to the status window. But by turning on this execution output recorder, you'll see the messages that get generated during execution. So as I said, Flames writes out messages, and these are messages that are coming from Flames, and the models themselves can write out messages. So in order to turn on output from the models, you actually have to do some things in your scenario to do that. Now, in the starter models, there is a command. There's a model that's called the log mixer. And I'm going to actually go to my commands tab here and show you where that's referenced. So there's this command that's called log output. So let me just read through this. This enables or disables the generation of output from comm device and cognition models currently attached to this unit. This is just a simple command that's implemented as a part of the FEX driver model. Normally, an individual cognition model would not have a command like this because there's this cognition model called the log mixer, which has a lot more commands for controlling what goes to the execution output, and it can be used on any model on any unit. So in the starter models or in another scenario, you could use this FC log mixer cognition model, and that's what you'd be using. But because we're not using the starter components in this scenario, the ground vehicle driver has a simple command for logging output. So this particular command turns on logging for all the cognition models that are attached to the unit and all of the comm device models. And you don't have any control of that when you execute this command. It just automatically happens. This command that comes from the log mixer, you get to be selective about which models you want to turn logging on for. So this is good enough, though, for this tutorial. And when you go look at the source code of that, you can see, as a developer, you can see the things that happen inside of that actually go to the models and alter those models, alter the attributes of those models to turn on data logging. So I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to add this command to this unit. And so I'm going to have it turn on right as soon as it starts. And the values are yes and no, and by default it's yes. So I'm going to accept that command, and I'm going to run the scenario over again, and I'm going to get some additional output now to my execution output window. So I'll make that a little bit bigger, and I'm going to run. So there's not a lot more output that's coming out there, but because there's not a lot happening for this unit yet. But as we continue to build this scenario and add more functionality, we're going to see a lot more output out here, and it'll give us a chance to see what's going on. So you can see that it shows us when particular commands are executed and when they are initiated. So we'll talk about the difference between initiating a command and executing a command in another video. But for now, it's just showing it executes this move to waypoint command for this unit at this time. And then a little bit later in the scenario, when it reached that first waypoint, it executed the next command. So we're seeing what's happening in the cognition model attached to this unit. And again, this is very simple so far. There's not much happening, but we're going to see a lot more in this window as we add more models and more functionality and to this particular unit. So we're going to leave this turned on. We're going to leave this log output command in here now for the remainder of these videos so that we'll always be able to see in this window more about what's happening. So that's all I want to cover in this video. Thank you for watching, and thank you for using Flames.